I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
Day.
I am. I'm just recovering from all this upper respiratory stuff, and it has not been a good time. I think it was COVID because my son was exposed, and then he got sick, and then I got sick. So, at 45, it likes to hang on a little bit. My vitamins aren't really a defense. Well, it's so nice to meet you. I'm excited to have this conversation. You have a really interesting backstory with your travels and whatever. But your profile said that you study like human joy and along with connection and whatever. And I've been super drawn to being intentional about joy over the last year, but specifically the last few months. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to start with what inspired that travel and what exactly kind of impacted you to head in the direction that you went in after that.
Well, it started actually before I went to Africa. So the trip that I took that truly transformed my life was a trip to Africa and then a conference I went to about a little bit less than 2 months later down in Mexico. So the trip to Africa was in 2012. I went with my then wife and 2 kids. My kids were 12 and 10. Now they're 25 and 24. And before that, actually in 1993, I did a volunteer project. Everything I've done that has transformed my life has been through volunteering. The greatest moments in my life were when I was giving unconditionally to others. And I've realized that that's a key cornerstone of my life and a key cornerstone of my happiness and my joy. So when I was 29 years old, I got introduced to an organization called Grassroots Aspen Experience that was bringing kids to Aspen to teach them to ski during the winter and to do a ropes course in the summer. Basically a week-long program to teach kids that had next to nothing in their childhood that everything's possible. And the last day that I was at this first program teaching these kids to ski, I'm in this hallway and entering into this gymnasium, and all 85 of the kids were there. I brought a dozen of them from New York. There were kids from New Orleans and LA and Denver and Phoenix. And all these different adults brought these different kids from these different parts of the country. And on the last day, they're all standing in this auditorium having a blast. They're like so engaged. They just learned to ski. They didn't know anything about skiing before that, most of them. And I'm watching these kids, and I'm working for GE at the time, which was the number one company in the world. This is 1993. Jack Welch was the CEO, and GE was this 300,000 person company. And I had a really good job and had a boss that was amazing. And yet I was empty. And I saw these kids that had less than I did that were happier than I was. Mm-hmm. And that was like, okay, that was my first wake-up call at 29. Why are these people that have less than I do happier than me? So I got back on Saturday night, went to work on Monday, and Monday night talked to my boss and said, I'm done. He's like, what do you mean you're done? I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm quitting. He's like, what are you going to do? And I said, I have no idea, but not this. So that was almost 33 years ago. I have been on this entrepreneurial journey that whole time. I have not had a job since. And I figured out how to make money and how to take care of myself and how to live a very beautiful life. I've been to 42 countries and have seen a lot around the world. And my global travel has informed me more than anything. So volunteering and international travel to me have been huge impacts in my life. And then I got to a point when I went to that conference in 2012 that shifted everything. So I'm in Africa, bringing computers to rural villages, volunteering with a nonprofit. And a couple of things happened on the trip. First of all, my bags for myself and my ex and my two kids all got left in Istanbul on the flight from Istanbul to Entebbe. So we land in Entebbe, and there's a list of people's bags who didn't make it on the plane. Turns out the plane was overweight, blah, 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 all the story. Took them 6 days to get us our bags. It's a whole story. It's in the book. The book, The Joy Molecule, is a story of 8 people I've met since I got back from Africa and the impact they've had on me and the 5 lessons I've learned from those people. And the first story is all about losing my bags, meeting this young man named Armstrong in eastern Uganda in a small little rural village called the Abayadaya community, which is just outside of a town called Bale. And I met these people. There was this 18-year-old woman with 3 little kids, and those kids were so happy. And this 18-year-old woman was bouncing around and loving life, and we see her with a big pot of water on her head, and she just loved being alive. And I'm back to where I was in Aspen.
Yeah.
I'm watching these people that have so much less than I do that are so much happier than I am. Hold on, I'm going to put this light on. I totally forgot that I'm
That's
in the
all
dark
right.
here. So I'm spending time with these people, and I'm watching their joy, like on their face and in their
Mhm.
being. And the kids are just running around playing, and they're begging us for new shoes. They're begging us for everything, and they're filled with joy and love of life. And I'm at this point 48, 2012, right before my 49th birthday. So before I did that project in Aspen, I'd done a lot of personal development work, and I defined success for myself at 28. And success was the ability to do what I want whenever I want to do it. And that's what I pursued for the next couple of decades. And I actually went to Africa owning my own business. I had a business partner. I had 8 other people working for us at the time. And I went away for a month, and I didn't have to do anything. I didn't need to check in. I didn't need to do anything really. So I kind of achieved my definition of success. And still, I met people that were happier than I was, that had so much less than I had.
Mhm.
And I got back from that trip, and I'm sitting at JFK Airport after 30 hours of travel from Nairobi to Cairo, Cairo to New York. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I'm done with success. I really need to be significant, which is where this book came from, Success Redefined. Because I realized that after about a year and a half, after doing a TED Talk in January of 2014 about the disconnected, connected world and what I had experienced in Africa, and I realized that they were deeply connected. And people kept saying
Mhm.
to me, I bet you can't wait to go back to Africa. Melissa, I haven't been back to Africa since I went in 2012. I
Wow.
didn't want to go back there to experience what they had. I wanted what they had here. So I've been dissecting that experience. And the young man Armstrong, who I met in this village, who ended up getting $1,200 from the airline for losing my bags for 6 days. And this young man Armstrong was begging to become an airline pilot. A kid named Armstrong living in Africa. His real name, his birth name was Armstrong. And the most famous Armstrong I know is Neil Armstrong, who was the first man on
Yeah.
the moon. He
Yeah.
was a pilot. I just gotten money from an airline, and the kid needed $1,000 to go take a pilot's test. And I'm like,
Wow.
that money was not for me. That money was for Armstrong. So I meet him on a Friday night, and Saturday morning, I hand him 10 brand new $100 bills. And I'm like, go take your test. And 2.5 weeks later, I'm at Wilson Airport in Nairobi, which is the puddle jumper airport to all the safari parks. And we had just gotten back from the Masai Mara. And there's Armstrong. Mr. Larry, how are you? And I'm like, Armstrong, it's wonderful to see you. He says, I passed my test. I'm like, Armstrong, that's
No.
great. He says, now I need money for flight lessons. And I'm like, okay, Armstrong, that's a little much for my first time seeing you again, but I'm going to go back home. I'll call you. And I started calling him every other Sunday. I'd play volleyball at the beach at 8 o'clock in the morning. At 7 o'clock in the morning, I'd wake up. I'd get on the phone. I would call him in Africa. And we did that for months. And I ended up sending him money to become get his private pilot's license. And then I realized in order for him to get a job, he needs a commercial license. I said, I can't do that from thousands of miles away. If you can get yourself a visa to get to the United States, I'll fly you here and we'll figure it out. So the kid did with no money. He got a
Wow.
visa, and I moved him to the United States. And February 6th of 2014, he landed at San Diego Airport. And the book starts with that story. I mean, it's Armstrong's story. But that part of my journey was just fascinating. And I've been trying to break it down ever since I got there. And then I went to this conference 7 weeks later, and I was asked 3 questions that changed everything. And those 3 questions was, what is poverty? Who gets to define it? And why are we trying to fix it? And close to 14 years later, I can tell you that we define poverty as not having. And I don't believe that they were poor. I think they were just impoverished. And in many ways, I think we're poor because we're deeply disconnected and
Yeah.
we're not living with joy. So, and then who gets to define it? We define it for them. And then we're trying to fix it to make.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
That's the sound of a big deal. At Wayfair, that sound happens a lot. Dream sofa for half the price? Big deal. New dining table you've been eyeing for months? Big deal. Finally picking up those last few pieces and finishing that bedroom? Now that's a really big deal. Whatever your home needs, Wayfair has the selection, the savings, and over millions of 5-star reviews to back it up. Shop Wayfair.com today before someone else snags your big deal.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Them look more like us so we can feel better about the lifestyle that we've created. And it's like, why are we doing this? So
Yeah.
since that conference, I've stopped traveling internationally to do philanthropic work. I've focused on San Diego because we have more problems here than I can shake a stick at. So I've done all my philanthropy work has been local because going to other parts of the world is more, for me, my ego than the ability to actually make an impact. So that trip changed everything for me. And it's been almost 14 years of digesting what I saw, spending time with lots of smart people, going on a bunch of journeys, both medicine journeys and physical journeys, and doing whatever I can to find peace. And I feel like at this point in my life, I have figured out what I am. And what I am is a spiritual being with a mind and a body that I have agency over if I choose to. And most people that I meet live in their mind, believing that they are their mind. So I use the analogy with my clients that you are the sky, your thoughts are the clouds, and your feelings are the weather. And most people believe they're the clouds and they're the weather. And the truth is, we're the sky. We're the viewer of it. We were put in there at birth. We are the spirit that is inside of us that is observing all of this. And I'm not a religious person. I was born Jewish. I went to temple as a kid and I got bar mitzvah, but I have no connection to Judaism. I'm actually part of a Christian men's group in San Diego. Religion is not the issue. Servant leadership is the opportunity that religion promotes. Not for all, but for some. And that's what I'm most interested in is how does spirit guide us? And whether you call it Jesus or you call it just your knowing or whatever you want to call it, I don't care. But coming from this place of trusting that we're more than what we think we are. And in my book, I define joy as knowing what you are, who you are, and why you are. And I did that. So the name of the book came from the last book that I worked on with a writer 10 years ago. And in Success Redefined, if you can see the cover, it says purpose plus connection equals joy. So the yellow swatch is connection and the blue swatch is purpose. And the triangle intersection is joy. And in the book, I
Mm-hmm.
said conscious connection plus purpose is joy. When you consciously connect with others that have shared purpose, that's where joy lives. So my writer said, oh, that's C2P, which is on the new book. And I'm like, what is C2P? She says, well, if H2O is the water molecule, then C2P must be the joy molecule. And I'm sitting there saying, that is brilliant. And I did nothing with it for 10 years. And then
I
something
love
happened,
it.
and I started playing with the name, and I'm like, okay, what is joy really made of? And if it is a molecule, I started playing with chat, and I started playing with AI and trying to figure out breaking it down. And I came up with the concept of, you look at the back of the book, and the
Yeah.
joy molecule actually is a molecule. And there's 4 atoms, and the atoms are what, who, and why. And the center is joy. When you know what you are, who you are, and why you are, so what you do for a living and how you make a living and how your identity provides you income in this world and what you do and what your skill set is and a knowing of yourself. When you figure out who you are, which is your values, your priorities in life, and everything about how you intentionally show up. And if you know your purpose, if you know those 3 things, nobody can tell you anything other than you know who you are. They can't tell you you're this. Well, no, I'm not that.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I am. And you can have an opinion, and I appreciate your opinion. And it might inform me later to make some different decisions, but you can't tell me who I am. So
Right.
when you know those 3 things, then you live with joy, because joy is a sense of knowing. Happiness is a circumstantial thing that we get when the world around us aligns really well. But joy, to me, joy is a knowing. And you can have it even in bad circumstances. And that's what I've been studying literally for the last decade of my life. And I've been realizing when I work with clients that we have a belief system which created our identity. And that identity is built on all the observations we've made in our life and the interpretation of those observations. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of 8 billion creatures on a planet that's spinning on an axle every day, rotating around a sun every year, in a universe that is so much bigger than any of us could ever imagine. And I think I matter, like my opinion matters, but my mind wants me to believe that. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't. At the end of the day, the world is unfolding exactly as it's unfolding. And the reason we're not happy is because it's not meeting our expectations. That's Michael Singer's favorite line, and I love that, is that
Mm-hmm.
the world is a beautiful place that has been around for billions of years, and we're here for a moment, and we think that this is so important. And joy comes from knowing that we are insignificant, but can be significantly impactful on others.
Yes.
Being able
Yes.
to impact others has nothing to do with our insignificance. But I mean, if you look at all the famous people that I've ever heard of, Churchill, Einstein, I mean, you name the person, male, female, it doesn't matter, that are famous, they're all dead. That
Yep.
we all end up dying. So why are we really here? And I think we're here to wake up and to figure out why we're here. And I think that's our journey.
So when did you have a spiritual awakening then?
I started playing with psilocybin and mushrooms back
Okay.
in 2021, 22. And I was in a men's group back in the, I don't know, 2014 through 2020. And a lot of my friends were doing it. And I'm like, I don't need
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm fine. And then I got intrigued because Sam Harris, who has a app called and I'm blanking on his meditation app, but he said something that was fascinating. He said, you can't meditate to a place you've never been. And that kind of set me off to saying, wow, if I've never been there, how do I meditate to that place of quiet? And he had talked about doing ayahuasca and psilocybin and all these different medicines. And I was never called to do ayahuasca, but I did a bunch of psilocybin journeys. The first 4 with large groups, and experienced something that was beautiful. But I didn't learn my own lessons, really. I was in a group and I experienced the entire group. And then in December of 24, I did an individual journey in my apartment with a guide. And then 3 weeks later, did another one. And the
Wow.
one in 24 kind of showed me that my parents were perfect. They were the ideal parents, and so were my siblings were ideal for me to be the person that I needed to be. That's the awareness I got. but I didn't get
Yeah.
past my mind. And I realized in that moment, it's crazy because my whole life I never thought I was smart. So my brother was the valedictorian of my high school and
Yeah.
the full ride to Stanford and Phi Beta Kappa. And that
Mhm.
was smart. And I
Yeah.
wasn't that. So if that's smart, then I'm not smart. And I've realized over time that I have been gifted intellect, although I
Yes.
didn't see it that way. So my mind actually was controlling my experience with the psilocybin and wouldn't let me get past mind. But I did another journey 3 weeks later, and they were both pretty sizable. And the second time on January 16th of 2025, I literally left my body and my spirit went on a journey. And I
Yeah.
saw life from a totally different perspective. And when I woke
Mhm.
up from that, when I came back into this body, I was like, oh my God, now I get to live with this awareness. And I thought I was gone. I thought I was ascended off to something different, a different place. And I saw my whole life. It was a path. I saw my relationships. My title and what people know me as is I'm a super connector, I guess. And my title is chief connector. And I'm really good at meeting people and connecting people that need to meet each other. That's how this vehicle works. And I explain to people like we're James Bond inside of a machine that
Yeah.
had no instruction manual. And you were put in there at birth. And then your mind created this identity that's not James Bond. And you got to deconstruct what happened in your childhood to say, okay, now James Bond gets to control this thing. The question is, what did this machine get? Like
Yeah.
every machine has a different gift. And it's like,
Mhm.
what was the gift that I got? So the gifts that I got, I'm a decent athlete. I love sport, but I'm not an Olympic athlete. I know Olympic athletes and I'm not them, no matter how hard I try. I'm not a rocket scientist, but I can hang with them. I can converse with them because I have different intelligence. So I'm all these things and I get to figure out what those things are. But that journey woke me up to the fact that I am more than what I thought I was.
Mhm.
And it showed me all the relationships in my life, which is why was my journey. Now, anybody else who goes on, does similar work might see something totally different, but that was mine. And it
Right.
showed me relationships in my life, the envy I had. It showed me the jealousy I had. It showed me the judgment I had. And I haven't gotten rid of those things, but I have a totally different perspective of them. So
Yeah.
on that journey, it showed me that.
So you're running out of closet space. The good news? You don't need to stop shopping. You just need to start selling with The RealReal. The RealReal is the world's largest and most trusted resource for authenticated luxury resale. Whether it's that mini bag that can't even fit your phone, or those boots you never fully broke in, The RealReal handles everything from photography and copywriting to shipping and pricing. So you can just sit back, get paid, and make room for things that actually feel like you. And with 10,000 plus new arrivals every single day from top designers like Prada, Celine, Louis Vuitton, and Loewe, all for up to 90% off retail, you're bound to find something perfectly on brand to fill that extra closet space with. Plus, right now, you can get an extra $100 to shop when you sell for the first time. Make room for what feels like you. Go to therealreal.com to start selling and get your extra $100 to keep shopping at therealreal.com. That's therealreal.com. Terms apply.
Life can be hard, challenging, or easy. And for me, life has been somewhere between challenging and easy. And for people in my life that I've met, life has been hard. And hard to me comes in three flavors. One flavor is something happened and my spirit said, I'm done growing. I'm going to age. My body's going to grow. My mind's going to develop. But my spirit, my actual being, is done. This one was too hard.
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
another level of hard where alcohol and numbing comes in. They said, this journey is too hard. I'm just going to medicate myself so that I don't feel it. And then the
Yes.
third level of hard is, this is too hard. I'm done. Suicide.
Mhm.
But the challenging and easy part are fascinating also. So now when I meet somebody who drinks too much, which I used to judge them, why do you drink so much? I'm curious as to what happened in their life that caused them to have such a challenge that they have to numb in order to feel okay. So
Mhm.
I'm more curious than I am judgmental. But part of me is human and it's part of our DNA to instantly react and say, what? But I'm doing everything in my power. So what I've learned is that being behind my identity has, I think, 5 major characteristics. It's 100% love. It's 100% abundant. It's pure gratitude. Like, I don't need a gratitude list anymore. I just wake
Right.
up every day grateful. I
Yeah.
think when you're creating a gratitude list, you're trying to convince your mind that you're grateful, but your being
Right.
knows that it's gratitude. I think my being is 100% present and my being is 100% neutral. And then everything else is a creation of our mind, not in a bad way, but just that's our mind working. And if we let the mind rule the vehicle, so if the mind is the driver of this car, then I'm in reaction mode all the time because all
Yes.
I'm doing is reacting to my inner child.
Mm-hmm.
If I realize that inner child was protecting me to keep me safe and comfortable, and that once I become an adult and I'm able to do hard things, that inner child identity can go in the back seat of the car. And eventually, if I really get capable, I could probably pack him really nicely into a suitcase and put him in the trunk and thank him for protecting me when I needed protection as a child. But as a 62-year adult, I don't need that protection anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I can deal with conflict. I can deal with mature conversations. I can deal with my feelings. I can deal with challenges happening to my children. My daughter's gone through some amazing stuff in the last few months, and I tell her it's beautiful. She says, "How can you say this is beautiful?" I'm like, "Because it is. I wish it never happened." Well, then you wish reality wasn't reality because it happened. So we can either observe it and find peace in all that happens, or we can fight it and be miserable that it happened. Which do
Mm-hmm.
you choose? I don't know if
Yeah.
you've ever watched Jill Bolte Taylor's TED Talk on a stroke of insight. She has a brain scientist who had a stroke, and she watched herself digress and she went out of her body. And once
Oh,
she came back, she's like, how do I get this immense being back in this little body? So when
yeah.
you realize what you are, when you realize that you are no longer, my mind is not my boss, my mind is a tool to be used by me. So when I say I don't like myself, who is I and who is myself?
Right.
Myself is my identity, and I am the viewer of that. So myself is the clouds, I am the sky. There's always clarity in the sky. You go high enough, there are no clouds. So my being is just love, abundance, gratitude, neutrality, and presence. And I can live that way every day, then the world just unfolds. And it's a beautiful way to be, but it's confusing to a lot of people around me. Um,
Yeah.
and that's what I love doing the coaching work now, is because I can help people intellectually understand. Since one of my joys in life is creating constructs that other people can understand. So I like talking about James Bond in my body and being given, I mean, somebody created this amazing thing. Think about it. Your mom and your dad, they did something together. A sperm went into an egg, reproduced a few billion times over 9.5 months, and you came out with 10 fingers and 10 toes, with organs you don't even know what they do or why they're there or anything, a
Right.
mind that works. But the trick is that we have access to inspect our mind. That, to me, is the human condition. Just because we can inspect our mind, which keeps us from being present, do we need to? Or do we trust that our subconscious will do all the work that needs to be done in order for us to be the person that we were born to be? And that's my journey right now. How do I just let the world unfold and trust that my subconscious will process just about everything and will allow us to experience the world versus judge what's happening? Our mind
Yeah.
wants to have control over all of it. And there is no control. There's just experience. So
Yeah.
I hope that
But
makes sense.
let me ask you this. So
Sure.
I'm assuming that you believe the way I do, which is like if you've had a spiritual awakening and you believe we are this big being that we choose this experience and, for our soul to get whatever lessons from this lifetime to expand in the way that only humans can expand a soul.
Uh-huh.
So what do you say about because in my belief, like, I think your subconscious, until you reprogram it, can actually be kind of a dangerous place from all the childhood programming. And so what do you say about, like, bypassing? Like, how do you anchor into the human experience to know that there are things you will have to transmute with the availability of this higher self? You know what I mean?
That's a great question. So if you're programmed from birth to learn certain things and you trust that subconscious, which is programmed with damaged data, that garbage in, garbage out. I hear what you're saying, but I believe there's a knowing. Yeah, it's a great question. I haven't
From
thought of
your
it that
higher
way.
self, that you can always tap into that. And I agree. I see what you mean now. Yeah, no, okay. I see what you mean. But I want to I want to clarify things like that, because I think in our line of work, there is a danger in the idea of bypassing, where there is, like, people like me who have CPTSD and have been through some real shit in their lives. We have to work through that shit before we can. Simultaneously, I'll say, I tap in all the time, but I had to learn what was a lie and what was the truth first. Because if you
No
haven't been
question.
exposed to this information, because truly I wasn't. Like, I was born and raised in Oklahoma. I'm still here. Was only around Southern Baptist and, charismatics and, culty folk. And so I was told to stay away
Indoctrinated.
from anything in this world,
Yeah.
So all the trauma, all the religious stuff, and anything that I currently believe now is definitely deemed demonic. I didn't know about higher self, but once I started, like, transforming, I can definitely identify, like, at least 2, if not more, very key points in my life where my higher self was zoned in on me and was like, get up. Like, I know what I would have attributed to like God or something as a child. I know what that was now. But I had to go through a bunch of shit and understand what was true and what wasn't before I really could tap into oneness, connection, because I had a lot of lies in me about how nobody wanted to connect with me, and I had a lot of lies to keep me safe from other people. And I
That's the
mean, listen,
identity
I
that's
just
driving the car.
am working through that shit over the last couple years.
Right. So last year for me, I ended up really focusing on quiet mind, skillful mind was my mantra for 2025. So I go through this experience in January. The rest of the year is, how do I quiet my mind and how do I make it skillful to serve me? And that requires highest self to say, nope, not valuable. Nope, not
Mm-hmm.
valuable. Okay, that one's valuable. This one's not. So you start dissecting your thoughts and the negative self-talk, which many of us have. So I've been doing a lot of estimating around people and where their thoughts come from. And so I would say somewhere around 50% of our population lives with majority, probably 70+% negative self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
There's 10% that probably live with majority positive self-talk. And then there's probably 40% in the middle that are so neither horrible or great. But the amount of people that actually have a positive self-image that talk to themselves kindly is very small. So the rest of us have to figure it out. And in my book, I have something I call the 20-something rule. And that 20-something rule says from birth to 20, the world teaches you what it wants you to be. And from 20 to death, you get to decide, am I going to live out what I was taught? Am I going to figure out who I was born to be? And maybe 1 out of 1,000 were taught to be the person they were born to be. So the other 999 of us schmucks got to figure it out ourselves.
Yeah.
So I was not taught joy. My dad was broke when I was 10. In 1973, he was $250,000 in debt, which is probably a couple $1 million today.
Wow.
Never declared bankruptcy. Did not declare bankruptcy, did not do anything other than we lived incredibly frugally with lots of stress and lots of scarcity in a household that I was a 10-year-old. And my parents thought my brother and sister that were older than me, that were raising me and taking care of me, that wasn't happening. So I raised myself. I was a latchkey kid, and I did a pretty crappy job of raising myself. I had no awareness of anything. I was
Yeah.
that white on rice kid. I was an extrovert's extrovert that needed attention. I had no idea how to get it, so I grabbed for it anywhere. And I've
Yeah.
learned as an adult how to build relationships and how relationships form and the investment you need to make in order to have healthy relationships. And the Harvard
Mhm.
study over the last 85 years that they can tell at 50 whether somebody will be happy at 80 on one single criteria, which is the quality of your primary relationships and the secondary relationships around you. And
Mm.
that's what I seek now. When I
Yeah.
learned about what brings joy, joy starts with my purpose is to help people connect to themselves, help them connect to others, and help them connect to the resources they need in order to leave this planet better than they found it. That is my personal mission. And
Mhm.
in order to connect with others, we need to connect with self first. I am not very good at connecting with somebody else if I am disconnected from myself because
Right.
I have no basis. I'm showing up as what the other
Yeah, what does that
person
even look
wants me
like?
to be.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm performing all the time. And
Mhm.
performing is exhausting. And when you can be yourself and just be present, there's so much joy there. So there's this journey that this question started with. So if your subconscious has faulty programming, your highest self gets to audit the thinking. And whatever comes in your mind to say, yeah, no, nah, maybe.
Mhm.
The last year was quiet mind, skillful mind. Decade plus of meditation every morning, finding time to be at peace and all this other stuff. This year, my word is agency. I
Mm.
actually have agency over those skillful thoughts. And I
Yeah.
get to decide which ones I allow to have input in my life. And the more I am present, the more I trust that my subconscious will come up with whatever it needs to come up with. I do have
Right.
friends that have no self talk, their mind's just quiet.
Which
And
is
they say to
wild,
me,
right?
he said it's the most bizarre thing in the world, and he's got friends that are the same. And you wonder where the talk track's gonna come from when you need to speak, but it just comes out naturally. There's no challenge. So if that's true, then where does it all come from? Do
Mhm.
we really need to actively think in order to live? And my answer is, I don't believe we do. So if we don't need active thought to survive and to thrive, why do we have it? And to me, active thought is the piece that keeps us from being present.
Mhm.
And that, to me, is the human condition is how do we be present? Because there is no past, there is no future. There's only right now. Time really doesn't exist. Money is a man-made creation, and money is a thing that probably drives most people the most crazy. Is
Mhm.
that this thing called money, which is a barter system that was created thousands of years ago, has no meaning unless we give it meaning. And we
Yeah.
give it a lot of meaning. So there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to think about. And there's a lot to keep these pictures attached to the walls. So we're going to take
That's
this down
great.
right now.
That's
Um,
great.
I'm in I'm in a new office, and I've been playing around with different ways of
Yeah.
putting
It's
things up.
alright.
But it came down, so I have new two-sided tape coming. But um, we are a crazy creature, honestly. And the
Yes, we
question
are,
becomes,
aren't we?
how do we become as present as possible? And how do we
Yeah.
live in a way that is in alignment with why we were put here in the first place? And I believe we were put here in the first place to figure out why we're here. So I'm working on a
Mhm.
new book, and it won't be out till next year because there's a lot of work to do on it. But my daughter asked me about a month ago, she's like, Daddy, why are we really here? And this book is a father's story to a daughter to answer that question. And in my TED Talk in 2014, I challenged Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs and said, what if we redesigned Maslow's hierarchy as a plate? And I don't think the plate analogy was the right analogy, but I'm not sure how much you've studied Abraham Maslow, but his hierarchy of needs was never created by him. The hierarchy of needs was created by some consultants that wanted to use his work in the corporate world. There's no diamonds, there's no pyramids, there's no nothing in Maslow's research. So I believe Maslow wasn't talking about a hierarchy of needs because self-esteem and love and maybe love is required, but belonging and self-actualization are not needs. I think they're more desires and aspirations. They're not needs. Needs are food, water, shelter, safety, love, air, and health. And for some of us, we need sex. But it's not a need to self-actualize, to be a happy human or to be existing as a human. So what are those things? And when Maslow was dying in his later part of his life, he actually went beyond self-actualization, talked about self-transcendence, which is one with God. So I believe that this new paradigm that I'm building for my daughter, which I wrote this book for her, is called the Ascension Ladder. And basically Maslow, if you take Maslow's construct and put it into 3 buckets, the bottom bucket is survival: food, water, shelter, and safety. So that's the bottom bucket. The middle bucket I'm calling me. So that's love and belonging and self-esteem. It's all about me. And then the top of the bucket, the top of the ladder, is what I'm calling ascension, which is self-actualization and transcendence. And that's ascension. And I believe we're on this ladder. And our journey as a human is to know where we are on the ladder, is to wake up and be aware. And no rung is any better than any other rung. It's just awareness. And once we're aware where we are, the opportunity is to reach down below us, help the people below us on the ladder, up the ladder, reach above us, the people above us, and ask them, what are you seeing that I don't see? And that is our reason for being. So if we're here to help those that can't see what we see, and to ask others to explain to me what you see that I don't see, that is our reason for being here. It's not to consume as much food as we can. It's not to drive the nicest car, be in the nice house. There's nothing wrong with that. But that is not the goal. That is not the reason for being human, in my opinion. I believe we're here to wake up, and to wake up to the fact of what we are and how do we become the person we were born to be. To me, that's the journey. And it's a beautiful journey. Except the mind wants it to be something totally different. And not that the mind's evil, mind's beautiful. And our identities are very helpful and our ego is very helpful. But getting back to this book, it's 8 stories of 8 people that I've met, 5 lessons. The first lesson is my circumstance does not define my joy. My situation in Aspen in 1993 and then being in Africa, I met people that had so much less than me that were happier and more joyful than I was. So joy is not defined by circumstance. The second lesson, my work needs to matter. Carrie Rich, 26 years old, handed $2 million to go change the world. She's amazing. She's 40 now. She's got 3 kids, 1 on the way, and she's just a powerhouse. And if she didn't get that $2 million, she'd be the CEO of some multi-billion-dollar corporation. Nobody would care. But she launched a fellowship program helping social entrepreneurs leave the world a better place. So if you go look up the Global Good Fund, you'll get her story, and it's in the book. The third set of stories are 3 stories about 3 challenged athletes. One gentleman named Jeff Mata, who's 100% blind, lost his sight at 26. I met in 2021. And in October of 2022, I got on a tandem bike with him and rode from San Francisco to San Diego on a pedal bike.
Wow.
Blind man in the back, I'm in the front. So it's called, he's a stoker, so it's the Blind Stokers Club. And I was the captain. And we rode 640 miles in 7 days. And Jeff Mata's story is amazing. Moon Tucker is the second of the challenged athletes. She lost her arm in a motorcycle accident and became a world champion archer. Her story is amazing. And then Joe Delagrave is the coach of the wheelchair rugby team for the U.S. Paralympics. And he'll be coaching the team in 2028 in L.A. And Joe and I are writing the next book together called The Identity Illusion, which is that third lesson. Is when you break your neck at 19 and you're 6'6", 260 and you're a college football player and you become a quadriplegic, your identity kind of gets shattered. And it's kind of, who am I? A little bit. And his identity got shattered multiple times in his life, which is in the book, but that'll be the new book. And that's all about identity. And my identity and my ego keep me from finding joy, if that's what owns this being. But identity and ego is not bad. It's just, it's necessary, but it's not us. The fourth lesson is persistence, perseverance, and patience. And that's my publisher. She lost a child at birth when she was in her 30s. And then 20 years later, her 19-year-old son fell off the Dunbarton Bridge in San Francisco and died. The one that was abandoned years earlier. And she fought to get that bridge torn down, which she did. And she's been through a lot. So perseverance. She's 79 years old and amazing. And the last lesson in the book is this guy named Irving Levin. Irving sold his company for $500 million 20 years ago and has become a philanthropist and gives money away. And he learned over that journey that giving it away is not the joy. The joy is in the relationships you develop from the people you meet along the journey. So he and his wife have sponsored over 1,000 young people to all first-generation college students. So he gives them $5,000 a year for 4 years. And last year he graduated his 1,000th college graduate. And this
Wow.
year he has 1,000 kids under scholarship. He's got a 3.5 person staff that helps him select the young people and manage the whole process. And his role with his wife, Stephanie, is to get to know these young people. And that's where the joy comes from. Seeing these
Yeah.
people and the difference it makes in their lives and their families' lives and their siblings' lives and their cousins' lives and everybody around them. So they're an amazing couple. And that whole section is called the Enough Academy. When we have enough
Oh,
as
I
a
love that.
society, what is our responsibility back to the universe? And then the last story is Trinity. So Emmanuel Trinity, I met in 2024 back at that conference I went to in 2012, 13, and 14 called Opportunity and Collaboration. And Trinity I met at that event, and Carrie Rich told him to find me. And Trinity is amazing. He's been teaching youth computers in the slums of Kampala and outside of Kampala, all of Uganda, and in Nairobi. And he takes containers, fills them with computers, sends them to slums, attaches them to a church. And when they have youth programs, they send the youth through these computer programming labs. They call it Elevate. And Era 92 is the company. And the Era 92 Elevate program has trained over 5,000 young people that live in slums to learn how to use computers. And he hires some of them and gets them jobs and gives them scholarships to buy computers so that they can start businesses. He's just
Yeah.
amazing, absolutely amazing. His story is amazing. And that's all about, again, circumstance does not define your joy. So those are my 5 lessons. Doesn't matter where I am in life, I can be joyful. My work needs to matter. My identity kills my joy. I need to persevere and persist. And I need to know when enough is enough. And when you know those 5 things, those are my 5 lessons. Everybody else is going to have different lessons. They might be some of the same, but I'm not saying that my journey is the right journey. It's just my journey.
Right.
And my daughter's boyfriend thanked me for not telling him how to live his life. My book is not a how-to. I do coaching and I
Yeah.
built a methodology around it, but it's not a how-to.
Yeah.
It's start with awareness, then it's alignment, and then it's aligned action. How do we take this awareness that we've created and do something with it that is conscious and chosen versus unconscious and unpredictable? So it's kind of how I live my life. I look to live my life every day, is to be as
Yeah.
present as possible and to be a good human, whatever that means. And I don't know, I want to leave this place better than I found it. And I know that the world is perfect the way it is. And I have a gene inside of me that says I want to do good and I want to help other people. It's
Mhm.
not because the world needs it. It's because my DNA needs it. And the most
Yeah.
selfish thing I can do is to give to others. It's the thing that feels the best. So
Yeah.
if it feels so good to do that, why wouldn't I want to do that all the time? So that's kind of my journey at this point in time.
Oh, I love it. Well, tell us where we can find you.
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm online. LarryKesslin.com points you to 5 dots. So 5 dots is my company. My tagline is right person, right time. I help people meet the right person at the right time. That's kind of how my life works. And I'm not sure why it works that way, but I've learned that's how my being exists on this planet. You can find my book on Amazon. It's in paperback, it's in Kindle, and it's available on Audible. And I am looking forward to writing some more books over the next 5 to 7 years. I've got probably 4 more books that still need to be written. And I just enjoy my life every day. And my kids are amazing, and watching them grow up. They're 25 and 24. My 24-year-old's getting married in May. He's asked
Oh,
me to
wow.
officiate his wedding, so I get to get ordained by the Universal Life Church and get to create a ceremony for my son. I'm looking forward to that so much.
Yeah.
But I've been blessed, Melissa. I can't imagine having a better life where in many points in my life, I wished I was someone else. And now I wouldn't trade my life for anybody else, nobody's. It's
I
just,
love that.
it's a good place to be.
It really is. Well, that's awesome. And I will make sure that I include your links in the show notes, including book links. But otherwise, it was so great to have you, and I appreciate you being here.
My pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you for asking thoughtful questions and for knowing who you are and for being so candid about your own situation, because that's all we can do, learn from other people's journeys.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's my favorite thing to do, honestly. Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share. All right, that's it from me. So make sure that you check out the show notes for links. And until next time, let's all just keep swimming.
INDEPE and cut.